Hello, greetings, welcome to another kind of like behind the scenes animation. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different from like traditional 2D animation. Right now I'm going to try and attempt to do a little form of stop motion because something I found out is that I need help learning how to have like that 3D mindset. Because whenever you're drawing stuff move slowly, angles change all the time. Because everything, I don't know, has shape. So, what I have going on right now, I have a little setup. Basically, here's my phone. I have it set up on camera so that I can take shots and pictures of this little dummy mannequin. Now you can see here, it's a little strange looking. I went ahead and took Sharpie and I basically outlined it, everything about it, so that way I can keep track of how it's angled based on where the lines are. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to be doing a couple different poses. I know I want a typical pose like that, and then I'm going to do a T-pose. And then probably some more interesting looking poses that are, you know, for Pacific characters, I guess I could do that. So yeah, I'm gonna basically make this I'll make it go fast. Okay, I'm back at it, another narration. So right now what I'm doing is basically taking my time and basically taking individual shots of my mannequins, because I really would just want to have that feel of knowing how much space in between frames of whenever the mannequin rotates a little bit. So I'm trying slightly different speeds. There was one I went super slow, there's one I went kind of fast, and there's a whole bunch of like slightly in between variables. And what I kind of had a good understanding is, as it doesn't really matter about the speed. A little bit it does, because, you know, sometimes it's unbearably slow or it's just 2 frames of it going back and forth. But whenever it's going fast, it still looks smooth, and when it's going slow, of course it looks smooth. But as long as the rotation is equal to every shot, then it will be a smooth like transition of spin. And then the speed will vary it. There was, I think, one, mannequin model I did that was my slowest. I think it was like 36 frames. But not only it was slower, but it was extremely smooth. It had a great transition from the beginning to the end of the full 360. As well, it just looked like it was gliding. It was very smooth and whatnot, and you can see me putting in the individual shots in all the different frames. This is in Flip-A-Clip, by the way. This is on my phone, as you can tell by the buttons on the side. It's just being screen recorded. So I decided to do this because I thought it would also be easier to, you know, have the shots instead of recording it and me rotating it, because my fingers would get in the way and whatnot. But also this was actually a lot of fun. This was a little fun experiment I did. I don't know if I mentioned this in the intro, but the reason I was kind of doing this was for character designs, basically. Because whenever I start making a bunch of stories, I'm gonna have a bunch of characters being made for that specific story and whatnot. So having these models and seeing them from all angles, I can then draw over it with my character design, so that way I can have a really good feel of how my character looks in every angle, basically. Unfortunately, I wish there were like animal mannequins, because I do prefer drawing animals over humans. But that is just something I'm gonna have to adapt to a little bit. So not only that, but I did a whole bunch of different poses like this one. It looks like they're jumping and whatnot. Basically, I wanted to also do with like their characteristic. So let's say my character really likes dancing. I might do one of those ballet models that I did, or if they're a parkourist, or you know, I'll do like a jumping pose. There's also like just that typical normal standing pose, a walking pose, and then a T pose, because why not? Just to have a bunch of like characteristic really show in this one action that they're stuck in, basically, and rotating. Unfortunately, I did have to cut this video in half because this was a lot of work to get done. I think this took about a month to finish. It was a lot of dedication, I'll tell you that. But I'm really happy it's finished now, because I can move on from it and also use it to my advantage with the character designs. So you can see here, it's really blurry, but I am now cutting the mannequin out of the background, basically. And I had, my first thought was like, okay, I'll keep the rod and the pedestal in it, because why not? And then I kind of realized, you know, further along, my characters won't exactly have that. So I decided to eventually get rid of the pedestal. And then whenever it came around to the back, I also was getting rid of the rod, which I'll talk about that later whenever I'm actually doing it. So you see, whenever I'm kind of cutting them out and there's like these tight 90-degree angles and less, I would kind of color it in a little bit, so that way when I went in with a bigger sized eraser, I would be able to get close to it without, you know, cutting it, because the shape that they use is circular and nothing with edges or anything. So whatever. So I think the very fun part about doing this on my phone is that I could literally do it anywhere. I remember when I first started this project, I was working 2 jobs, and I was sitting at the firework tent, and any free time I had, I would start this up and start working on it as much as I could and whatnot, and it was very tedious, especially with the angles. As you see, the feet were constantly being cut out, so I had to just imagine their kind of shape and whatnot. Okay, so what you can see kind of here is I had to color in where the rod was now overlapping the mannequin and was now in front of it. Right now it was just on the foot. I had to do a few experiments with that to get the right brush to make it like a smooth transition and actually look like the natural wood and the soft gradients to highlights and shadows. So it took a few different types of brushes to see which one would work best. It wasn't until, I don't know, after quite a few that I decided that the airbrush brush is the best because it has a bit of a soft edging. It isn't sharp, as well as it's not really transparent, so you can build it up a lot better and completely cover the rod and whatnot. This was also just one of those mindless projects where you can just zone out and do the same thing over and over and over again. It was nice, but it also felt like, in a way, when I kept snapping back into reality, I felt like very little work was getting done, just because this takes forever. It takes about a full day to get one of these entire 360 mannequins to be complete. Takes a lot of work, mainly just because it takes forever to just cut it out cleanly, and then going back in and coloring over it. That also adds a lot of time to it. As you can see, I was just grabbing the colors off the mannequin that are right next to the rod and basically covering over the rod, kind of giving it that illusion that it was still, the rod was never there, and the lighting wasn't really affected by the rod. So there were a few times where I also had to color over the shadow of the rod because, you know, it's kind of obvious that there was once a rod. And then you could see there, I also colored in where the pedestal part was also overlapping the foot. I had to do that a lot as well because a lot of times I had the feet pointed. So I had to kind of visualize what the foot looks like, kind of draw it, and then go back and color it as if the foot was still there. So those guidelines that I put all over the mannequin with Sharpie helped a lot, keeping track of how things are kind of angled, especially on the foot. Whenever the line on the bottom of the foot started shifting, I could tell that the foot was rotating, so it's going to be shaped more differently, more pointed, or whenever it's directly in the center, more rounded, basically. So having that also helped, and then it also helped whenever I am drawing my characters on it, so I can keep track of how the body is angled at a certain frame and whatnot. You can see there I was grabbing a lot of the different shades all around the mannequin to cover up that rod and whatnot. And it looks like I finished that, and I'm now starting on a new project or whatever. I decided to do like a green background. Sorry. Oh, bless me. I decided to do a green background just because my favorite color is green, so I was like, this is pleasant to me. And I also did it in a bunch of shades, so that one's more teal and whatnot. But looking back now, people could use this and cut out the background because it's one solid color. And it's screened basically, so you could also just cut that out in like video editing or whatever instead of, you know, doing it frame by frame, which I will also upload a video of all of them just rotating around as their finished product. I'm sure that will be upload before this video, since this is kind of like, you know, spoilers. Oof, that's really blurry. Holy cow. I think there were some times I accidentally started recording with my phone up vertically instead of horizontal. So I had to like blow it up and the pixels blew up. So I think something that I've noticed whenever I'm like tracing around the foot, I often make it very pointed whenever it's behind the pedestal, because that's just kind of what I imagine it to be, is really pointed and not rounded out. So you can definitely tell that character's like a characteristic, an art's choice and whatnot. Yeah, I think if you like look up closely up to the legs, you could definitely tell that they're very fuzzy, like they're constantly slightly changing all the time, because I'm constantly coloring it in, and realism's kind of hard to do over and over again, especially something that has so many slight gradient variations. But for the most part, it gets the job done. It tells the artist what's there and what isn't and whatnot. See, like right now, this would be a very good kind of interesting perspective, because it's now where like the arm is almost completely above the head, and then the other arm behind it is no longer visible and whatnot. And if I was to probably draw it from imagination, I would probably have the arm slowly go down whenever it's coming around, so that way you can still see the head, when in reality the arm would completely cover the head because of how high it's angled up. I'd also maybe in the future probably add more mannequin models to it if there is a character that has a different type of personality that can't exactly be expressed by what I already have. I would be more than happy to make another mannequin to add to my collection, but I probably wouldn't make a whole bunch like I did in one go, because I ended up having 10 mannequins that I needed to get done, which, you know, really took away my time of other projects, because, you know, I just needed to get this done in order to progress and, you know, actually use it and whatnot. Yeah. But I've also been thinking, like, how would you make an animal mannequin and give it a good 3D spin around that doesn't look weird? So I was thinking, like, if it's on all fours and it's just standing there, that could be good, but I don't know. I feel like at some point I need to like make an animal mannequin that just is kind of like a general idea of how all animals look, of where the chest is slightly bigger than the guts, and then legs, and then the head and a tail, and that would be it. There would be no ears, or like snout, basically, because that different changes very quickly on the different types of animals. And then I would have a very long tail that would be sectioned off with the, you know, marker that would show basically a short tail, a medium tail, and a long tail. Whether if it was like a cat, a dog, a bunny, a cheetah, you know, something that has various sizes to the tail based on the animal. So that would be an interesting project. And I've there was one time I was just chatting on the phone and I was just fidgeting with the mannequin because, like, you know, it's basically like a toy sometimes, and I had the one of the foot completely angled down, like it was doing like a very strong toe point. The screw popped off and I'm like, uh-oh, and then the foot shot out and hit me, and the calf, basically part of the leg, the bottom half of the leg, just fell off, and lo and behold, it was just the knee and the spring that had 2 hooks on it on either side. And that was how this mannequin is basically held together. It's just a bunch of springs within every joint, which was fascinating to me because I thought it was just held by tightly very tight string. But it also kind of makes sense that it would be used for springs because it would be able to hold its position at any given angle. And if it was string, it would slowly, it couldn't really hold more of its weight, any more weight than itself, so it would just slowly let go and come back down. So that was a little fascinating to me, and thankfully we got it back together. I had to use a paper clip, makeshift it into a hook, and then I would slide that calf part of the leg back up through the spring. I would pull the spring very tightly down, and I'd have to like rehook the foot and then put the screw back in so it stayed in place, because the screw is what the hook basically latched onto. It's what it hooked onto, basically. So that was basically how that type of mannequin was made. So if I was to make an animal mannequin that would express roughly what the shape of an animal would look like at any given angle, then I would also have to do it with springs and whatnot. Or I could buy animal mannequins, because I looked online. I was just curious, like, surely somebody made animal mannequins. And unfortunately, it's like the really specific species of animals. So you have like the cat, the bunny, the horse, maybe even like a fox or something. I don't know. I want something really general, because that mannequin is a very general and stereotypical, probably like 6-foot human. When in reality, people are all these different types of shapes and sizes and heights and, you know, and whatnot. So, obviously, whenever drawing your character over it, there's going to be certain characteristics that aren't expressed through the mannequin that are going to be expressed through the character that you need to adapt to through imagination. And that is the end of episode 1, part little series of my mannequin thingy, because there's a lot of there's a lot of process to this. So stick around for episode 2 of where you hear me ramble some more about my mindset and process of how I did this and whatnot. Yeah, don't please leave me a comment of what you guys think, any constructive criticism, what you liked, what you didn't like, any suggestions, Just, you know, thoughts. I'm quite open-minded, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye!